to welcome you to this emergency press briefing. I want to first say thank you for coming so promptly on a very, very short notice on Christmas Eve. This shows that you are committed to making sure that the democracy we enjoy in this country is not taken for granted by anyone. Our engagement with the media goes way back, and we know the role that the media has played in the struggle against dictatorship in the Gambia for the 22 years that we had a dictatorship in the Gambia. So first, on behalf of the Secretary General and all the members of the party, we thank you very much for always showing up whenever we call these press briefings. Of course, most of this year we did not have any briefing per se. We have issued statements. But I want to give you good news in the new year that briefings would be a regular issue. It may not be possible all the time to have the Secretary General and the senior leadership of the party, but the youth wing and the communication wing would be engaging throughout 2023. Before we start the briefing, it is necessary to say that the party leader, His Excellency, will make a very brief statement, and the statement would be given out to you. There would be an opportunity for a Q&A specifically. But again, on behalf of the Secretary General and the party leader, we wish to wish all Gambians a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. We wish to also express how delighted we are that the media is diversified, is vibrant, and is doing the job that it is tasked by the citizenry to do. Of course, because today is Christmas Eve, we call you not because we want to call you, but because of the circumstances that has compelled us to do that. I was listening very few days ago to the Director General of the National Center for Arts and Culture talking about the history of Christmas. And whenever we talk about Christmas, we remember our former campaign manager, the Right Honorable late Femi Ingram Peters. So we know what Christmas means. It means it is a season of peace. It is a season of goodwill to all men. But as long as one citizen is unlawfully being deprived of his basic liberty, we feel this is good enough reason to call you at such short notice and for you to respond in like manner. So on behalf of our United Democratic Party, I want to say men,
Human Rights and Legal Issues of the UDP. Members of the press will forgive me because I lost my voice in Janjamure. I have been trying to recover it, but I've still not been able to retrieve it. I'm told sometimes when you have cameras and walis, when they put their spells on us, it's difficult to really get back to where you are. Nonetheless, I believe I'll be audible enough for you to hear what I'm saying. And of course, at the end of it, you probably will feel disappointed because there will be no statements that I will deliver to you. There may be papers I'll be delivered to you, but no statements. What I'm saying here is just off the top of my head. So you will therefore excuse me if we do not give you any written statements. Of course, the spokesperson has stated in his opening remarks that when the liberty of a one citizen is seized, it is a cause of concern, and it should be a cause of concern for everyone, because you never know what liberty means, what freedom means, unless you lose it. Those of us who have been subjected to deprivation of our personal liberties, we know what it means when one is deprived of his personal liberty. Of course, we are here today on the deprivation of Mr. Sabally's liberty. Our Constitution provides, among other things, its preambles, that this Constitution, I'll quote, this Constitution provides for a fundamental law which affirms our commitment to freedom, justice, probity, and accountability. The fundamental rights and freedoms enshrined in this Constitution shall ensure for all time respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to ethnic considerations, gender, language, or religion. That is a preamble which really introduces us into the Constitution, its various sections, to see how these fundamental values have been catered for in the Constitution and how they should be protected. Section 18 imposes an obligation on the executive and all organs of the executive, as well as the legislature, to enforce and observe the fundamental rights that are enshrined in the Constitution, and charges the judiciary to enforce fundamental human rights. The Constitution charges the judiciary to enforce fundamental human rights. It does not dictate to the judiciary that it must conspire with anybody to deprive that person of his fundamental rights. We'll come to that in the course of these discussions. The Section 19(3) of the Constitution provides that a person arrested on suspicion of having committed an offense or about to commit, and who is not released, must without undue delay be brought before a court, and in any event within 72 hours. And we emphasize, and in any event within 72 hours. You find a similar provision in the 1970 Constitution, Section 15. You find a similar provision, but the words "in any event within 72 hours, within 5 days" is not prescribed in that Constitution, so it is left open. And Section 37 also says when a person alleges that any of the provisions of the fundamental human rights is being or is likely to be violated in relation to him, should apply to the High Court for redress. And of course, what you will come to see is that government itself says that, well, we recognize that Mr. Sabally's fundamental rights will be infringed. It's likely to be infringed by us. So we are coming to you for some kind of order that would justify the continued detention of Mr. Sabally against the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. Ladies and gentlemen, we are privy to some documents filed by the state ex parte to deprive a person of his fundamental rights. Now, whenever any individual is to be deprived of his fundamental right, he has a right to be heard. He must be heard. It cannot be made ex parte. But what has happened is that they come under some what they call some practice directives. And that practice directive does not allow for the deprivation of a person of his rights, allows one to make applications for matters to be heard during the vacation. By the ex parte motion, the state makes spurious allegations against Mr. Sabally that when he addressed some TikTokers, he did say, we'll take the government. Mr. Sabally never said so. What Mr. Sabally said is that mbe banko talale. And mbe banko talale, every politician says that, mbe banko talale. And he said, even Hanijani local government elections. And ladies and gentlemen, I like to play for you what, at least for the benefit of the Mandinka speakers and others. You know, sorry, I'm not very good at these gadgets, you know. Kadi drama. Now, I'd like you to listen what Kadi Drame said.
Anytime, anywhere, as we go over and not from lockdown before the local government election, the mayor, the chairman, anytime, anywhere, as we go over and not from lockdown before the local government election, the mayor. The one again, they can go Tana and Momodou and the local government.
Oh, your mics are not picking.
Oh, I don't know how do I do it. Anyway, we will. Sorry. Mr. Sabally said, "Mbe banko lockdown lale," which in essence means that we are locking the country so that Adama Barrow will find it uncomfortable to go in any part of this country. Don't we hear people say this is a no-go area for these political parties? Don't we hear that? So if we say that, if Sabally says that Mbe banko lockdown lale, what is wrong with that? Is that tantamount to taking over a government? It might be in preparation of taking over a government, because it is said that local government election of Membina, we must make sure that we go on aggressive recruitment of voters, so that the next local government election, he mentioned the mayors and the chairman, mentioned Danjo, so that they will succeed. But, gentlemen of the press and Gambians, this is a scheme, it's a ploy that had been contrived several months ago. You will recall in their NPP forum that we must silence Momodou Sabally, we must silence Ibrahim Adiba, and a third person, that they must be silenced so that they can go ahead with their politics. That evil scheme that they contrived is what has now been hatched. And unfortunately, the judiciary has been used in this unholy act. I want to say that the judge who did this is not an ignorant person. Nekkut ne jooy bi dafa ñàkk xam-xam, xam na ko, xam na lu moo def, xam na luwaa bi, waaye dafa def ne maa tey naa la tëj until the 5th of January. Doo ci mun dara, you big mouth, di nga tëj sa gémmiñ bi. That is all. And he is doing so to satisfy Adama Barrow and his cohorts. We've seen the TRRC report, how it castigated the judiciary when the judiciary was used by the regime to suppress Gambians. We are now seeing again the judiciary being used by the Maro administration to suppress a political opponent. We have seen in the TRRC report how the security forces were used to really trample on political opponents. We are seeing again being repeated again. Now one asks yourself, what was the never again mantra? What is it for? Why was the need to really have conducted this, this investigation by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission if the very government that commissioned such, such an investigation can now turn around and doing exactly what the former regime was doing? We do not have any hope for this country. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to assure all of you that, in fact, what is happening is just an abuse of the judicial process. What is happening is that the judiciary, the police are conniving with Adama Barrow because they know that local government elections are coming, they are losing ground, so this is a way to intimidate people. We will never be intimidated. We will never be intimidated. We'll make sure that the councils that we have, we retain them, and also make sure that the councils that we are aspiring to gain, you do not reach them. We will, and that way, we will definitely take the country, and we are prepared to take the country. If you mean taking the country, meaning taking the government, well, that is your interpretation. When somebody says, "Nga banko nga lockdown," a banko lockdown, does that mean we're taking the government? But I'll give you the affidavits of somebody who calls himself Lamin Cham. I don't know what type of person he is. He swears by false affidavit because Mr. Sabally never used the word government. He said banco. How many times have people heard, lawyer Dabo, I'm single, lawyer Dabo Bankota? Why have they thought that is treason? They're pretending to be what I'm not. Why have they not said that is treason? But because Mr. Sabally is a thorn in their flesh, because Mr. Sabally doesn't mince words, he says exactly as it is. That is why they think that this is a way to silence him. And to silence him, they have to call in aid the judiciary to help them in this heinous, in this shameful act, because they know that they cannot. In fact, in their affidavit, they say that because we cannot keep him for more than 72 hours, therefore lock him for us. That any sensible judge who is not doing martyr will say, no, this is what the Constitution says. We are not going to partner with you. In fact, what we expect is that if you want to do this, we expect Mr. Sabally to come under Section 37 of the Constitution so that I can order for his release. But I will not perpetuate his detention because that will be me, a judge, asking you to infringe the Constitution. It's shameful. It's really shameful. And our country have not bargained for this. These are not the lessons we learned from the TRRC. The lessons we have learned from the TRRC is that we should be measured. We should be protective of the laws of this country. We should be protective of the individual, of the citizens of this country, unless they commit an offense. If you suspect somebody has committed an offense, and then you go to court, without any charge, you go to court and say detain him, and the court readily grants that. Really, I am ashamed that our judiciary is starting to behave as, or some of the judges in our judiciary, starting to behave the way they were behaving in Yahya Jammeh's time. It's not a good omen. Now, if I feel that Mr. Wali has committed sedition and I don't want to make my investigation, what do? I go to court and say, please detain him further because I want to do my investigations. Deprive him of his personal liberty. That is the trend they want to set in this country, and it is a trend that we cannot accept, and we must not accept. Gambians must know that Solo Sanden died to make sure that in this country, tyranny does not rear its head. Gambians went to the polls on the 1st of December to elect Adama Barrow in order to bring an end to dictatorship in this country. But alas, I think Mr. Barrow is right. The dictator is ourselves. We are the dictators. The dictator is us. And Barrow's gradual ascendancy to dictatorship is being aided by the police, is being aided by the judiciary. And this is something that we cannot accept, and we must not accept. I call on the Human Rights Commission of the Gambia to join with the United Democratic Party to bring an end to this horrible state of affairs. I appeal to all NGOs that are concerned with human rights activities to team up with us, because this is not in Sabally. This is against our fundamental laws of the country. And Sabally just happen to be, the person in the center of it. It could have been any of us. So I appeal to all to join us, that the decadence into which we are gradually sliding to is abated. Otherwise, this country will be sorry for itself. See, I think Mr. Tao has stated in his opening remark that this is a season of peace. Absolutely. This is a season of peace. Christ came to redeem humanity from disaster. And there cannot be a greater disaster than denying people of their fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution. In this season, one should behave in ways that promote peace. One should make statements in ways that promote peace. But I want to conclude to say that the greatest threat to peace and stability is injustice. That is the greatest threat. Where you have injustice, it always provides a recipe for instability. And this country of ours, where we have said in one national anthem, let justice guide our actions, it must be so. These just cannot be incantations in our national anthem. We must also live by it, abide by it, practice it. In that way, we are sure that we are building a just society, a society that will be free from violence. When you push me to the wall, I would have no recourse other than to push back. And that is not good. I have said it over and over, that the peace and stability of the country is the responsibility of every one of us. Everyone, every Gambian, and every person resident in the Gambia has a responsibility to ensure that the stability of this country is maintained. But the greater responsibility is on government. If you start misusing your powers, if you start misusing your laws to suppress people, their fundamental freedoms, to perpetuate injustice, to carry injustice to people, if they cannot find justice in the courts, where you should go for justice. If they cannot find justice there, I'm sure it's going to lead to something, and nobody wants that for this country. So, President Barrow, Inspector General of Police, Mr. Sanya, and all your security forces, please, let us conduct the affairs of this nation in a way that will promote peace. Let us promote and act in ways that will certainly ensure that this country is stable. This is what we all want. We do not want any Gambian to leave this country to go as refugees anywhere. We are receiving refugees. We don't want to be refugees in any country, and we shouldn't do anything that will make any of us refugees in any country. Gentlemen of the press, this is what I have to tell you, that is an absolute infringement, an absolute violation of Mr. Sabally's rights. The only thing is that they have contrived long ago that we must silence him. We must silence Ibrahim Adiba. You remember when Ibrahim Adiba was taken away? On spurious allegations of insulting the president. For saying that Obama futu mabatijan, that is true. You might have futu tantity. If I say Obama futu mobat, that is absolutely true. That is not insulting anybody. But those people who do not know, they don't understand Mandinka language. They went to say that this is an insult to the president. The president was not insulted. It's just a statement of fact. A statement of fact. Because if Ibrahim Adiba says, Mobama Futu Usain Dabote, that is true. Ntele tarakasola fobi mol sita, so ntele ba futu wale akena dol sita, ko dol sita masal. That is absolute truth. That is absolute truth. Wato, let me say this in Mandinka because you are reporting, so you will not. Those who cannot read, who do not understand English, will not be able to understand what we are saying. Press molu, journalist olu, nga kontam banke, ko spokesperson ya fo nyame, nga le bismillah janto, judi bila manja biro to janto na nim press conference wala. Ado dalilo me ya nga kiro ki janto, wala Mr. Sabally la ko wala mo. Be nga lon ka foko, fenkelung amira aram salung arabalung talanan wato la long ya muta en fan danga tu na ofisole to abe salola je to data la ko dan kay mbatu je to bare ya muta e ko ya muta munela ani tiktokers no le sita e diamute ay mune fada ko moko no ako nyim banko mba lockdown la le wala me nyim banko mba soron la le ba sona jumal amrama baro so that ate bono la janto ay tabase ka nata ta jeto ba mo le tara jeto mel ba wurela nata ta fuladu am la bunya me so la ta so jeto nim president mo so to la banko ka fo banko nyima busi la ba Mr. Sabally yole fo ko banko nyim ba soron na le adu fem man ka kan moy salon ka ko banko soron ni man sa kunda taw man ka kilindi kaw kambe banko so na noni ni mo kuntan la ku benta so wala nyata kala be Mr. Sabally mutala bar même fam ya ko dimina wara ako jakalo wara wala mo ifali yaje ko nyinde 72 hours nimman ta samba no la court woto ngata kiti bunto ala nyancho ngavo kiti bunga ya ala nyanto tinya ni mo la nyanto tinya ni banko ka ike bor mi do la kata court kita kiti bunga to under section 37 of the constitution ya fo ko mansa fele wala kar fele abe nyanto nya bat nya kan bay tere ngna e kafo police wala ko al kar la nyanto tinya ye ma hana foko arabu alena ma ni monde kata public holiday Tuesday man ke public holiday bari ma foko alna fo hani bela ma nyanto tinala dalila kante fanyum kuma kuntan doron wo mumiral ku balati gambian ko liya aliaje al sisam sanyi nako mansa kunda be menke kan wolomu abe jikore tamani ka ba dole londi kan ka fo ko si boy no mo kan ne dron ye muta de ta ko ya fo ko ko dukara soronje ya fo ko te luatinya adi jojo me nyinke nya manka ka fa maluwa londe ay luwa londe ada manka ka fa filita da man fili akola ko ntele yake adiata ntele moda kuno la jeto wala ntele nga ke adiata ntele amanka la lon tayata bare be nga jele TRRC la report nga menji jeto courthouse judiciary jojo ya jame use nyame ngela condemnation jela mami ra judiciary sina son wala judiciary me yalo ka foko abe pare ka la head me yalo ka ebe arrangement keka pour kaje yama cases nyol doli se prosecute no jan nyame kadi ko tinyarol melkata ya jamera jamano ko wo judiciary killings na son ko keta tay keka jorangti ka mo la nyanto ka busila dalila kante way ko nim momoy luatinya wallahi inyantale tay la luanya tiluda adu mo mafako Mr. Sabally manyana prosecute la natra ka fako ay luatinya mo mofo bari ko ibe menke ka wala ni luwa manta be ngajele DRC men for security forces la kuoto yeke jorangti nyame nyim banko kan ka Gambia dingil ke halaki kad femman tambi nyinna yemota yasin dula kilinto ni me lafta jala il faut mo ko in sonta la yaaje ala bo ndala dimbal ko atala badil jala fem man tambi mo hala ko la tambi ka tambi wala police olu e ko be yaaji ko be adama barole fasala faniya kam police olu e ko adama baro kadu mo sabale men fala ka ko ni local government election men binala ten be constitution bele tada wala mo men ba fala ko alinga tanga karto ni alinga tanga nyinka wala ba fala ko be masakunda boyn la lemba sembola bang nimme ya haklo soto al balo na ka ko mu manka to nyati mo meke ban ni mu ko la men tafawnu e ko ko mo sabale ibrahima diba ani modo nyata men e ko be den la nyim banko kanya MC Cham e ko be den la nyim banko kanya ngajala ya ibrahima diba ku kuntang me yalo ko ya mutanu ya samba ko ibrahima diba fa ko arba baro ba mo futu mo bat ni gambe ko but wa mun nendir le nyako adama baro ba adama baro le ba futu usen bate usen da bate usen saf ka internet ne o nako usen da wala ba futu ta mo ko tem bate o tay o mari ne para mof ani ka ko fo dum adama baro le ba futu ta mo tima aliyajo kukutanga ya samba Sabally men fo me yaram ka be audio to man kaka moyla be ya moy ako banko ni mbar lockdown la le am banko ni of course ba lockdown la le fo mo buka moy ka ko this is no go area for opposition this is no go area for NPP fo buka ko fo man ko lockdown le tibam fo man ka lockdown le tibam bari police olu ibe use kam anam ajila ko le wayin disappoint bakat lawyer lo ay luwa karande ayala baake dole nyanta nyinkela yavu ko no malon bari tay luwa lo e fa yamen kala affidavit fangtay ko nalo ne ko nim ko menyum fra mbed luwani be luwati nyala le sa en court house du kare ma koy no luwani ngati nya barasi kete la kanka kadu there is nothing constitutional may a court empower kavoko mola nyanto e nyanta kafla mansa kunda mala kotinya nyinde ni e mari charge offense la ye not court you apply it for bail court can integrate la bail yes go understand wo go understand kavoko wo sembo bela le yoke yake bilali lo men kama fa sahata fa man sa muku ko tanede bar wo sarra kavoko sembo bar ni assemble ta jojo nyinna. She has no authority on the constitution. Bafala, in fact, judges not be. Nimmeye Amina Sahola Kito Do, Karang, Fenke Juf. There's some, I mean, Juf control, yeah. Wala judgment. Nimmeye Karang. Ibalo na kavko nya kilo menke, tilimbalia lomu. Ka loi to sembetala ka fa ko practice direction wala be constitution overrule vraiment ka fa ko the law national assembly legislation nani loi mantanyola o loi ni ko kaburkale fo KMC ni attorney general fo loi national assembly loi men fenka fo supreme ko ka fa ko loi ni in constitution ni manyota so ye burka so practice direction any joy rely on practice direction because you deprive people of their fundamental rights. You have not, I don't think you are doing it out of ignorance. You are just doing it because you have been dictated to do so. Because you want to really provide comfort for Adama Barrow. You want to really provide comfort for NPP and his cohort. That is why this judge behaved this way. Not that she doesn't know the law. She just says, ma tay, na ko def. Lima doon wax sama mbokk ay mooy li fi jotaay bi tey lu ko waral mooy affaire Momodou Sabally looloo ko waral gis nañ ne alarba la ko police yi téye bu njëkk a dem ko ne rek ñëwal ñu waxtaan pour moo naka di jàppa moo tas ne pour julli tisbaar ñu ne ko dañ la arrest ñu yóbbu ko lan lañ ko arresté ñu ne dafa wax ne dañoo jël réew mi te naka la ñoo jëlee réew mi wax na ko tiktokasi mu ne na ngeen génn ngeen dem ut carte da ngeen ngeen dem uti ñu ñoo bokk ci UDP ndax UDP mun a delloo office Fodé Danjo Rohey Malick Lowe Talib waaye nit yi liggéey bu rafet ñi liñ def mu ne looloo tax maa leen di sant pour na ngeen génn mu ne dinañ lockdown réew mi te lockdown réew mi mooy ne dinañ li fi ne dinañ téye fu nekk ci réew mi boo xam ne Adama Barrow du fa mun a dem su fa demee gàcce rek la faa jël xanaa duñ dee dëgg fii ñu wax ne ci jamono jooju ne foo ñuy seen no go era of opposition duñ dee dëgg ñuy wax ne Badbu is no go area for this and that loolu la nga fi dee dëgg so lockdown mooy the whole country will be a no go area for Adama Barrow except the State House lu moo def State House su génnee dem Mankamankounda sax dafa jëlee gàcce that is what loolu la Momodou Sabally di wax ne waaye li soosee dee wax ne ku siyaatiiti ñoolu ñi nga xam ne dañoo jël mbir def ko proportion out of proportion for their own selfish interest ñu li fi ne lii coup d'état la ci coup d'état bi la bokk waaye ngeen xam ne yéen a gën a xam ne lii amul benn du coup d'état kenn du wax ne damay def coup d'état ba pare ngay wax ne nañ leen toppal luwa kuy def loolu waaye lii nag liñ planoon la bu yàgga ñoom NPP seen forum yi dégg nañ leen ñu ne Momodou Sabally foo ñu dañ ko noppiloo fii nañ ko def mu noppi MC Thiam Ibrahima Diba foo ñu fexe daal ñii ñu noppi suñ defut loolu ñun duñ fi am jàmm fii gis ngeen Ibrahima Diba bi mu ne kenn de am sewut keneen ñu dóobu ko kii Momodou Sabally ne mbe banko taala mbe banko lockdown la ñu ne loolu treason la waaye li ma ci gën a lifin mooy suñu loi bu mag bi constitution bi cër bi mu jox nit mooy ne su fekkee am na nit benn government or any other person bugga sa cër boobu bugga koo jël amee da nga yaakaar ne daf ko bugg a jël mbaate mu ngee def ay jël mu ngi koo jël da nga war a dem ci court waa court bi ne na ko stop sa cër bi nga am nga exercise ko waaye ngay dem ci court di ko wax ne diw de lii mooy cëram lii la ko luwaa jox waaye dama bugga nga aaye ko ma ngi ko soog a dégg nga dem court ne diw sangam lii droit bi lii la ko jox waaye dama bugga yow court bi nga aaye ko mu ngi soog a am Gambia fii te lu waa jooj bi ko def nekkul ne dafa ñàkk xam-xam di am na xam-xam parce que kuy joytul ne su ma cër dañ ko bugg a jël ci ñooñ la dee daw high court pour mu gis ne aar na ko pour mu gis ne loi dox na according to the constitution waaye dafa def yëfi maa tey maa am doole bi ñëw nañ dama koo def ci holiday time la kenn du ci mun dara court baa ngi tëj soo maa tey naa ko def waaye nag tur bu yàqu bi nag dégga du naka police de ku police la ñoo yaa seen tur in fact du even nekk Adama xëy na dinañ ne Adama Barrow ak police ñoom ñoo doon lifi seen loxoom ci suuf waaye moom jooj bi na dem down in the history of this country ne moom moo def lii wax nguur ne kii de dégga lii la cëram waaye nag jox naa la doole nga yaxat cër boobu loolu na dem down in the history te goma ne loolu baax na ci moom internationally ak in the eyes of human rights defenders and human rights advocates maa ngi appeal nag to the National Human Rights Commission maa ngi appeal to NGOs yi nga xam ne seen jéego mooy seen taxawaay mooy ne protect rights of the people képp koo xam ne yow bugga nga ne loi nekk ci réew mi nit yi seen cër seen rights ñu protect ko maa ngi leen di wax ñëpp ñu bokk ak UDP yëf ju ñaaw bi nga xam ne moo door nii ñu génnee ko parce que doo def maa tee rek jël nit taaj ko benn place ne yow yaa am doole pour def loolu in the first place amul benn doole benn luwaa joxut ko challenge naa ko ba challenge na any judge moo wax ne dama wane luwaa bi moo ko jox lii soo ne practice direction loolu def di loi Chief Justice toog rek di fi National Assembly passe fi ay loi Supreme Court ne loi yooyu méngut ak suñ constitution bi so fundamental human rights boo xam ne is entrenched is guaranteed so a flimsy practice direction moom moo war a overrule loolu léegi gàcce la pour Gambia waaye nag jaakaar naa ne dinañ doon jàng ci TRRC li wax ci judiciary bi ci jamono Yahya Jammeh li wax ci security force ci jamono Yahya Jammeh yaakaaroon naa ne képp koo xam ne yaa ngi ci security forces yi képp koo xam ne yaa ngi ci néegi attekaay bi di nga bàyyi sa xel ci loolu ne gis nañ ne day leen use on pour nit yi di deprive leen of their freedoms ñi nga xam ne ñoo def lii su fekkee woon ne seen mbokk leen téye woon ñoom ñoo fee nekk di juubu di wax ne lii àndut ak yoon waaye nag Mr. Tall wax naa ne te jamono bii nekk ni Christmas jamono jàmm la Jesus Christ dafa ñëw according to Christian doctrine dafa ñëw pour doomi aadama pour saxal jàmm ci àddina pour gis ne doomi aadama cëram li ko yàlla jox loolu mu exercise ko te bokk na ci freedom ba nga njoori sa bopp bokk na ci nga diine bi nga bokk nga bokk ci bokk na ci bokk na ci ne duñ la lifin mukk duñ la atteel mukk te dégluñu la looloo tax even balaa even Milton ci Paradise Lost ñu ngee lifin ñu ne Adama Yàlla ne du ko punish fa mu wax ko ne lu tax nga def lii waaye yow nga jos jël nit punish ko déglu loo ko ba pare nga def ci sa kayit bii ne absent mel na ne danga ko joxoon danga ko saafoon te saafuñ ko di wax ne absent to ku read li fi da ngaa fa ne Mr. Sabally nag xama lu ne lu tax demul waaye saafuñ ko ñu def ko rek ci gannaawam an ma ko waxee di ci jamono bi jamono jàmm la jàmm nag léegi ñun ñëpp suñ rogal la suñ responsabilité la pour def loo xam ne dafa saxal jàmm ci réew mi waaye nag nit nag boo ko def injustice nag mooy nooni jàmm injustice nooni jàmm la te li mu bëgg ci réew mi mooy let justice guide our actions towards the common good loolu lañ bëgg maa ngi leen di gërëm yéen pressmen yi di leen sant wa salaam sorry Mr. Tall waxoon na ne naa leen jox statement but def ma benn written statement I just doing this on top of my head waaye nag seen affidavit bi ak li ci transcribe naa leen ko jox xam naa ne ñu nekk ci audio yi every media house am na ko I'm sure of that tiktokers yi every media house am nañ ko so ñoom liñ transcribe ngeen seet loolu ngeen déglu li ngeen déglu Momodou Sabally li mu wax li ngeen gis ne even tense transcription bi was false it's not correct ñu jël ci benn lifin rek you see the whole all these three pages benn sentence rek lañ ci dem we are going to do massive aggressive campaign we are going to retrieve government from Adama Barrow. That is a lie. He said we are going to retrieve country, the Banco Letada. He never said we are going to retrieve government. It's a lie. Why Ben sentence Bob jail from all these three pages. So we'll give it to you as also as saying phony affidavit be. Gentlemen of the, I thank you very much. Thank you
very much, Secretary General and the party leader. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, the party leader has an additional engagement, so we can only take very few questions. But before that, let me recognize the presence of the Deputy Secretary General and Party Leader, who has also joined the press briefing. So kindly come up and to recognize the presence of the members of the National Assembly.
More than one copy. It's more than one copy. It's more than one copy.
Please indicate your name and the media house you represent.
Sorry.
We're not hearing you.
So I said, Sabally has came out after government so what is your take on that? Considering the fact that this video was made like a week before the arrest was.
Sorry.
The question is, the arrest came a few hours before, after the announcement of attempted coup, when the TikTokers visited Mr. Sabally, I think last week, well before this. Are there any connections?
Well, there's absolutely no connections. That is the flimsy excuse that the government is employing to detain him. Look, if I want to talk about overthrowing the government, I don't do it in the public, talk with the people in that way. It will be done in complete secret. If I'm plotting for overthrow of a government, and Mr. Sabally is intelligent enough, if he's into overthrowing, it will not. Those are not the people that he will talk to on those type of issues.
Yes, sir. Bruce.
Yeah.
And also, Mungena like in any of our languages, Mandinka Wolof or English.
My name is Yahya Yao from Westport Radio. My question is, we understand that the AGK was filed an expert application seeking detention of Mr. Momodou beyond the mandatory 72 hours as prescribed by the 1997 Constitution of the Ghana. As a legal expert, party leader of the United Democratic Party, who do you think the judiciary has acted within the confines of the law, continue to detain Mr. Sabally, even though he was charged by the police?
Thank you. That is what is central in this press briefing. In the first place, depriving a person of his constitutional right, ex parte, I've never heard of it. You ought to have jurisdiction conferred on you by the Constitution or other law. And in fact, if any law confers jurisdiction of a court to deprive a person of his liberty who has not been charged for an offense, that law would be inconsistent with the Constitution. And I think also it's an abuse of the process by the Attorney General to have filed an ex parte motion. If they were sure of what they were doing, they should have filed a summons on notice. And again, I fault the judge. When the fundamental rights of an individual is an issue, and it comes to before you ex parte, The right thing for her to do was to order that, no, I will not hear this application ex parte, serve the other party. That is what is in keeping with practice. That is what is in keeping with the thinking of people who are protective of the fundamental rights of citizens of this country. But if you do not care about the fundamental rights and liberties of any of the citizens of this country, you will go on, file an ex parte motion, and then give it to whatever judge, and then for the judge to endorse your violation, your continued violation of the Constitution. It's as simple as that. There's nothing that can cure an illegality. It is illegal. So there's nothing that can cure that illegality. Because from the word go, it was wrong. So it is not this judicial gymnastics that will really give validity to Mr. Sabally's continued detention. Because whatever you do, whatever practice direction you rely on, is inconsistent with the Constitution. So I think this is what about. But I think I want to leave those issues for Mr. Fatou to deal with. But I have no doubt in my mind that is an abuse of the judicial process. And we all know, the Attorney General knows what an abuse of judicial process is, to irritate a person, to do things to the annoyance of a person. And this, they're just trying to irritate Mr. Sabally and annoy Mr. Sabally, and of course, annoy UDP and also irritate UDP. That is all they're doing.
His Excellency, I just want to know if you have made peace in terms of attacking, if you have made peace, a swift peace in attacking judges in this capacity. And also I've seen young boys around what goes to step in the next move of the party.
So I don't understand the question really. About the young boys.
I mean, the young boys behind you there, what the youth are
What would they?
What could that picture tell us if there would be any move, extra move by the party?
Well, say whether I have attacked any judge.
No, I mean, many times you condemn people not to criticize judges. Why now you seek to do that?
Yeah. When judges make mistakes, they are human beings. When they make mistakes, yes, I cannot condone anyone criticizing them. But when a judge deliberately abdicates his responsibility, his or her responsibility, in protecting one's individual rights, we have a right to say so, and we'll say so. Because this is a political issue, and we believe that politicians are using the judge, so we'll also deal with it politically. That is what we are doing. As I say, I have enormous respect for all the judges of this country. But that doesn't mean that when a judge behaves in this way, I should keep quiet about it. When judges do things that is that I feel they are wrong, but it has been done properly, in a legitimate way, of course I cannot complain about that. I mean, the presence of these young men here just shows that the young leadership of the United Democratic Party, because they are the youth wing. They are the youth wing of the United Democratic Party. It just shows that the youth leadership of this country are really prepared and they are ready to take their responsibility in the party. That is what it tells.
Thank you so much. My name is Momodou. So, you said this is a scheme employed by the environmental science and other members of the party. Well, the general reaction is that Fatou is testing the depth of water.
Yes?
He's testing the depth of water. He's clamping down the sand from especially political parties. And most people say that the opposition is now taking things for granted. They are underestimating government. So are you going to stop at issuing this statement
and press conferences. So what next action are you going to take to ensure that somebody doesn't spend or be at the presidential on the 5th of January? Or are you going to be on the streets like before summer Sunday, or you're going to stop at this press conference and press conference?
Without the sanction. So I think that's it. But if Barrow is testing the depth of the seas, well, I have said that, look, injustice is the recipe for instability. When you trample on the liberties of individuals, and then it's just as if nothing has happened. That era has gone, and it will never come back. So, if President Barrow is testing the depth of the seas, then I think he should really rethink that it cannot happen, and it will not happen. I am not suggesting anything, but look, you fear a place where you have never been. The Mandingos, you say Wanato. If you've been to Wanato, you don't fear what is in the Wanato. Yeah? I mean, you see, Mr. Sabally is uncomfortable where he is. When Mr. Sabally has experienced detention, I mean, in some years ago. So for him, it's nothing new. It's just that we outside, we are worried. But I know, because I've met him, we've spoken. He's not worried. And he's not worried because he has not committed any offense. That is why he's not worried. All this is a nuisance, but again, I want to say that all of us should together work to ensure that peace prevails in this country. And that will happen if we pay heed to this stanza in our national anthem. Let justice guide our actions towards the common good. Let us do that.
Someone has a follow-up question.
Second question is, you express your disquiet with the IGP, but you are disappointed in him as a lawyer and so on. But we have seen numerous occasions when people make certain pronunciations, they have been arrested or questioned. What message do you have for the Inspector General of the Government of this news? When it comes to issues like this?
Well, I don't know whether it's a message I want to give him or a reminder. Last week, he was on the State of Affairs, QTV. He gave a very impressive interview. And one of the things he said, which endeared the police to me, is that there is a human rights unit established within the Gambia Police Force to ensure that people's fundamental rights and liberties are not in any way violated. You cannot have such a unit within your institution and then turn around and promote the violation and infringement of the fundamental rights of another citizen. So maybe that statement he made on TV maybe was just a public relations stunt. And I don't think Mr. Sanyang should really be engaging in public relations stunts. I think it should be meaningful that that unit to have any value which is answerable to him directly. That is what he says. The unit is answerable to him directly. That he should ensure that the rights of the government That is the message I want to give him.
Any other question? Jumale lafta ñinin karo kela in Wolof, in Mandinka? It doesn't look like it. Again, thank you very much for your prompt attendance and for your very diligent questions. We have been asking for fundamental law reforms for the last 5 years or so as a political party. And I think it would be clear, like party leader has said, that Jamajin Amchireu Mifi, Nanyani Alamuyo, ñu bañ a isi réeroo ak ajaaroo Gambians yëpp dañ am stake ci gis ne government bi mu ngi doon ci yoon. The last item on the agenda is the affidavit that is supporting this illegal detention. I'm pleased to share it with all
with the exhibit, with the exhibits. That is transcription.
Oh.
You know, definitely.
So it's 2 copies. There's one for the transcription and
There's
one
transcription and
This is transcription.
that's the transcription.
yeah. Let me arrange them. Let me arrange them. Let me just
We have
arrange.
5 copies each. Yes. So we have one. Okay, one.
So the lady who asked a question will have one. Yes.
There's one.
Can you put them together properly? Huh?
So lady who asked a question, here is a Christmas gift for you so that your story would be fully complete. Mr. Marwale, you also deserve one. You asked 2 questions. Mr. Dabo has decided not to open the prison. Young man.
Yeah, I'm affidavit.
Kerr Fatou. Again, thank you very much. This press briefing has come to an end. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Deputy Party Leader, National President, honorable members of the National Assembly, thank you very much for coming.